We're going to make tucks now. Tucks are similar to pleats in that they're folds in the fabric, but the difference between a pleat and a tuck is that a tuck is going to have stitching that goes all the way down the piece of fabric. The place that we are probably most common seeing tucks is on a man's tuxedo shirt going down the front of that shirt. So the first thing we need to do is we need to transfer our stitching lines from our pattern piece to our fabric. So we're going to take our tracing paper, put it between our two layers so that it marks on the wrong side. We're going to take our tracing wheel and follow the stitching lines, pressing hard to get the tracing paper to actually transfer to the fabric. So now I have the lines traced on my fabric and I'm ready to make my tucks. So to make a tuck, we want to take the stitching lines and fold them on top of each other with wrong sides together. So I'm laying them so that they match. And then I'm going to pin those in place, and I can open this up and make sure that my pin is going through the stitching lines. And I'm going to do that a couple places in the fabric to hold that in place. Again, my pin is going through my stitching lines. Now I'm ready to stitch my tuck. So again, I'm going to use a plain seam to stitch that tuck in place. So regular stitch length, and that stitching line where my pins are is going to become where I'm going to guide. So my needle is going to follow those pins. So I'm going to line that up. I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm going to sew down the thing, making sure that the pin is my guide for where my needle goes. When I get to the end, I'm going to back stitch, raise my presser foot, and cut the threads. Okay, and I want to do that same thing again for all three tucks. So again, I'm going to line it up so that it matches. Put a pin in. Okay, so now we're ready to sew the second one. So again, we're going to back stitch, and then we're going to stitch down using the pins as our guide for where the needle goes to make our stitch. When we get to the end, we're going to back stitch. Cut those off. Okay. And then we'll do that again for the third tuck. So again, line the tucks stitching lines up. Put a pin in there to hold them in place. And then we're ready to stitch the last one. So again, back stitch, stitch down, and back stitch when you get to the end, and then cut your threads. So now when we lay this flat, we have 3 folds that are on the right side of our fabric that will press down and make our tucks. So we've sewn our 3 tucks, and now we need to iron those. So we just want to fold them flat and iron them down so that they lay down. And I like to also flip it over and just press out to make sure that I've got those nice and flat and ironed.